We have been bamboozled, hoodwinked, flim-flammed, all of the above by Call of Duty. And of course, what this is referring to is what was put in the game. And I briefly talked about this in another video, but JGod has put out a full video on this. It's saying, does Call of Duty think its players are stupid? This is referring to them adding the advertisements into the game and then removing the advertisements from the game and saying that it was an oopsie and they were never supposed to be there in the first place. And I'm curious what he has to say about it. I've already talked about it a little bit, but I want to dive into it a little bit more because it's a hot topic.
So we're kind of in a funny situation where it feels like Call of Duty thinks that his player base is stupid. And to a certain extent, maybe they are. They continue to play the game. A lot of people do. They continue to buy the bundles. Even with all the issues, people still do that. People will be lagging all over the place. And then they'll go, where's ranked?
What's crazy though is most of what we know from the bundles that they put in and everything along those lines, they seem to just, the people that buy them aren't the actual creators, the streamers, things like that. They seem to be the more predominantly the casual players of the game. Because with that, pretty much everyone I know that streams the game or plays it or makes videos does not buy any bundles. Back in the day, like Modern Warfare 2019, yeah, when they were kind of unique when they put them in, there was a little bit of story behind them, more realistic. But now it seems like it's mostly the casual players. Although I do hear Nade Shot saying that he spends like $300 all the time on it, and he's like the one that complains the most. So like correlation equals causation. I don't know.
I want to play ranked so I can disconnect and lose SR. I don't get it. Like I said before in previous videos, I'm glad I play multiple games. I started Death Stranding because Death Stranding 2 comes out at the end of the month, and I want to be kind of caught up on that. But that's
I need to do that as well because I want to check that game out, and it seems like it's like 100 hours time sink, but I don't know if I've got time.
This in regards to this is now the third time that COD has put out a tweet with their Call of Duty update account where it feels like they're gaslighting the player base. And whether it's true or not, the perception is that they're gaslighting their player base, and perception becomes reality. This is kind of how a lot of things work. If something is perceived as valuable, it's valuable. Even if it is or isn't, that they're going to be able to charge a lot. And that's not just in gaming or Call of Duty. If something is perceived as low value, there it goes. And it's just kind of one of those things. So the specific tweet that I'm talking about is that they say a UI feature test that surface select store content in the loadout menus was published in Season 4 update in error. This feature has now been removed from the live game. You guys didn't get a chance to catch this one. I don't have any footage of it, I don't think. But basically what would happen is you would load in.
So we talked about this. I showed footage of it. I even showed it in game. This is essentially you go to your loadout, and above all of, like, you'd go to select the weapons. Let's say you selected the PPSH. Above all of the weapons that you've created, it would show an advertisement for any of the bundles that include a PPSH. So an advertisement over the gun that you actually want to use.
When you go to adjust your loadouts, you know, normally when you select the create a class and then you select over the weapon, and then you can select through the various blueprints or make a new class for that weapon, and then you could start from scratch with no attachments. Well, before, like in between the create new class and the actual blueprints you have, whether you have a 5 attachment meta build, 8 attachment, your zombie build, your multiplayer build, whatever, before you can go through there, it would have the bundle. And obviously there's specific ones to certain weapons that are out, whether it's the Jay and Silent Bob bundle. And it's just like, okay, why even say it like that? Like, oh, it's a you. That sounds like they're trying to be honest, but the reality is
they're not honest.
Do we really trust that?
No.
Because maybe they were planning to bring that out in Season 5 and it went early. So what? It's like, oops, our bad. That's still going to come back later. But it felt more like, oh, we put it in there. There was a little bit of backlash surrounding that. So let's go ahead and pull it, and we'll just say it was an accident.
No, just say we hear your complaint about it. We hear what you are saying. Clearly you don't like it. Clearly you don't like our microtransactions being shoved down your throat like a free-to-play game. So we removed it. I would appreciate that more, honestly.
It was a bug. And if they didn't have a pattern of this type of behavior,
it's happened before.
I could believe it. I could say, you know what? Hey, accidents do happen. fool me once, shame on, you. Fool me twice, there's going to be some problems, right? So this is where we get into a pattern of this behavior. And not only did that happen, there was another instance where it says, we're investigating a bug where player levels and level icons may not appear for match-made players in the lobby list.
So, okay, so this one I'm a little bit more torn on. So this one, you'd go into a multiplayer lobby, and then underneath the names in the multiplayer lobby, it wouldn't show a level, it wouldn't show a prestige, it wouldn't show anything. And to me, that one did feel like a bug. But some people were saying, oh, they didn't want people leaving when they saw the ranks of other people. Well, from what I've seen, ranks don't mean anything in game, because most of the time when I run into good players, they're just level 55 anyway. So I don't know. That one I tend to believe a little bit more.
So the example, this one was primarily in multiplayer. What you'll do is queue up. And sometimes if you're playing solo, you can see that, oh, dang, there's a few master prestiges in the lobby. I'll go ahead and back out of this one. I don't really feel like sweating that hard. So I'll back out and I'll queue up again. Oh, okay. Low levels. Oh, this could be a little bit like good because it's a little bit feeling more casual. Be an easier lobby. Maybe I can use an off meta gun to kind of level it up to camos. Well, this feature was hidden and it wasn't looking like the normal bug. Whereas if we talked about a level 1 bug, most people can acknowledge that there's been a level 1 bug in Warzone for months.
This is a really good point.
Where if you kill someone, it'll just say level 1.
It's still in the game,
even
by the way.
if they're Prestige Master, level 1000, Prestige 3, level
it's
44
in Warzone as
or
well.
whatever.
Well,
still say level
multiplayer.
1. Known bug, you keep your game open for like 2 or 3 hours without a restart, it'll say level 1. You restart it, boom, it's back to saying the appropriate level. This wasn't that. Not everyone in the lobby was level 1. That would have been, even though it would have been another thing, it would have been at least understandable because we've seen the bug happen in other parts. And as we know with the janky spaghetti code or whatever the game is built on, if a bug's in one area, it'll be in another area, and then it makes perfect sense. This particular case, different UI icon. It's like a grayed out person silhouette. And it's like, okay, you're trying to pull another fast one. I can't believe you. Again, if this was in isolation and it was rank 1, that'd be more.
If this was in isolation, I would completely believe that this was a bug. I still somewhat believe that it's a
believable, but that's not what's happening. And we've had this happen again in December. There was an issue where in the kill cam, it would give you the headshot hit markers visually, but on the actual player, the damage, it didn't actually do that. And they tweeted out back then, it says, we've identified an issue that could result in erroneous visual blood effects. So this is pretty noticeable in snipers, where you would shoot somebody, get the blood missed,
but you didn't get
no hit marker. And you're like, what? How does that work? And it says, when damage was not actually dealt while shooting at enemies.
When in reality, this is a server issue. Like it was proven, I think it was the Tactical Brit made a video on this and proved that the reason why that happened was because of server issues, where on your server, it was registering as a hit marker, but on your console or PC, whatever you were playing on, it registered as a hit marker, but in the server, it did not. So you were seeing the blood, but it wasn't actually registering damage to that person. Like that, it was proven that that was it, and then they lied about it, and they said that it's a bug.
In all modes. So this was appearing in other modes, and everyone just laughed at them. Like, there's no way.
Community noted on
and there's
Twitter.
People that did some testing with some lag comp type stuff, and they were able to replicate these things on one screen but not the other. And it's just basically their servers and the net code or whatever is going on with that. More complicated than that, but they put out a statement essentially saying, oh, you know what? You guys are all wrong. That's the way it felt as a community. So I don't know what the heck's going on, but this is kind of a silly spot to be in. And they have this account for Call of Duty that does the Call of Duty updates. And they try to do their job to try to update certain things. Obviously, we had some patch notes 6 hours ago that basically talked about the UI thing. But this is a problem. It's with the game. So I wanted to point out something very specific is when we go to this, and if you just look at the dates. So if you look at all these, we could just go back.
Crap,
okay, from right here. So the 29th, boom, issue. 29th, 29th, obviously the update. 29th, these are multiple issues. The 29th, retweeting the 29th, hey, we fixed the problem.
It wasn't
Boom.
fixed.
29th, 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 29th. How many things went wrong on the 29th? It's beyond broken. Same thing with the 30th, 30th,
'Cause it's
30th,
right after an
30th,
update.
30th, 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 and 30th, and 30th, and 31st. We finally made it to today, guys. Let's go.
So clearly this video's
Either
a
way,
little
the
old,
game's
but-
in shambles when it comes to these types of things. Of course, if you're on the lucky side where you just don't experience any issues, you don't notice anything, more power to you. Hopefully you enjoy that experience and you cherish it, because there's so many people that are having these issues. And it's not like we're making them up. They're like literally
So here's the thing, like where you're kind of damned if you do and damned if you don't. And this is like the one area of this video where I guess I'll disagree with J God. So let's say, for example, this Twitter account existed, but they weren't tweeting out all of these things. Like if I go just randomly click back and read one of them that they put out, like, so let's go back to where he had highlighted the 30th. We are investigating an issue causing players to disconnect from matches. Just something simple like that. If they didn't do that, we wouldn't know that they were looking into that, and that would be a bad thing. On the other hand, if they do put it out there, all of a sudden their game looks bad because it looks like everything's broken. So is it more important to have the conversation between the developers and the community of them saying, this is broken, we're fixing it, and then when it's fixed, we fixed it, and then we can say, no, it's not fixed, and then they say, we're working on it again? I think it's better to have that conversation than to not. So what he's saying about all of these problems being put out there, yeah, the problems shouldn't exist in the first place, but having the communication, I think, is really important. Now, having the QA to make sure those don't happen in the first place, more important. And then what's even more important than that is them not lying about it. When they do implement something, like, for example, advertisements in the shop, don't come in, because I don't know why JGod didn't say this, but don't come in and be like, oh, that's actually unintended that the advertisement, like, dude, you coded it in there. You hired someone to build that code, have the code so that only the bundles with individual weapons showed up when you're looking at that weapon. You implemented it into the game, and then people didn't like it, so you removed it. If everyone came out and said, this is an amazing feature, I was looking for these bundles, you'd be like, yep, we did this on purpose. So don't lie and be like, whoa, whoopsies. No, be like, okay, we hear you don't like it, we're going to remove it. And honestly, that would be a first. That would be like, did you just say you heard the community and you're listening? You heard it and you're listening and you're making a change. Are you Call of Duty at that point? I don't think you're Call of Duty at that point.